Hi everyone, my name is Kim van Mark. I am the author of the book series, The Chronicles of Nadine. And for those of you out there who really want to start writing, but you just don't know, I have got a fantastic guest with us, Ashleigh. She is a prolific writer. She is an award-winning writer. She writes dark romance and erotic horror, and I've learned so much from her. She's done a lot of training for the indie author networking organization in South Africa, and I am so grateful that she's taken the time out to chat to us, because we're going to learn a lot of her productivity hacks and how she got started. So Ashleigh, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome through to Write, Learn and Earn. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us how you started getting to be a writer. What happened to make the bug bite?
So I have been writing for 6 years. I have published recently my 48th book.
Wow.
Can do the math and work it out. Maths is not my thing, books is my thing. My very first book was a bucket list item. We had made a list of 10 things that each of us wanted to do in the next 10 years. And the only thing left on my list was write a book. I had swum with the sharks and walked with the elephants and everything else, and write a book left on my list. And it was just, I read a book and I was like, I want more like this, and there weren't any. So there was a hole in the market, and I knew I had the ability. It was just honing that craft and learning it. So your first book is school fees. Like any other thing in life, the first book was the school fees. It taught me what I needed to know to do it successfully. And yeah, 48 books later now.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, I'm sitting on launching my second, so I'm really in awe. One of the things that stood out to me, I'm a mom, I've got 3 children, and when I started writing, I was running a business, and I had to work extra hours. I had to work from 3 o'clock until 7 o'clock, and sometimes I felt kind of sorry for myself. But when I listened to your talk and you said that you wrote with a baby on your lap, then I was like, wow, that is amazing. Tell us about those early days when you were writing. How did you manage it? I mean, moms who've got kids, that's not an easy task.
No, it's not. 2 tips for moms: noise cancelling earphones, number 1, best thing you'll ever invest in. And number 2 is just patience. Obviously your kids don't understand like that you disappear into another world. It's a foreign concept to them. But when I started writing, my youngest was 5 months old, and at 5 months they can't really sit on their own. And unfortunately for me, Callie was a busy baby. She started crawling really early and everything. So the only way to be able to write was to have her on top of my lap. Otherwise she was getting into something she shouldn't. So it became sort of our routine. After she napped, she'd sit on my lap while I wrote and play with her toys or whatever I'd have on the desk for her. I generally would have a big desk pad with some crayons and just let her go wild. But we all have the same 24 hours in the day. We all have the same obstacles, the same blocks, the same time sucks that slow us down or hold us back. And it's about navigating around those time sucks, about creating time where you wouldn't have time. So for instance, people often ask me how I still read so much and write. So my Kindle lies on the counter while I cook dinner, and I read and I cook. My Kindle, I have one in the car. So when I pick up kids from school, I can read or proofread. And that's when I do my proofreading, and self-editing is on the school run. And so you create pockets of time where you would normally have just wasted time. I almost never watch TV, like almost never. If I watch telly, I find something I want, and the whole season must be there, so I can watch it in 2 days and be finished wasting time. So it was adjusting my sort of feel around what I really wanted. I wanted to write, which meant I had to carve out time every day to write. So I would get up earlier, go to bed later, write when the kids napped, write when they were at school, write on your phone while they're at soccer practice. If you work in Scrivener, which you should, because it's a writing program for writers, and I think that's a very important starting block, is to use a program that's designed for writers by writers. And so I have Scrivener on my phone, so my manuscripts are all linked together. If I'm sitting at the school, if I'm sitting at the soccer match, if I'm at the swimming pool, I can still write. So you carve out that time around your kids as well.
I also found for myself, I mean, I know the one day I needed to have some scans done for my book, and I arrived there and I was supposed to collect the scans, but the guy hadn't even started them. So what was handy is that I downloaded some software onto my phone that allowed me to dictate. And while I was pacing up and down waiting for my scans, then I did a little bit of dictation so that when I got back home, I could then go through the transcript and edit that. It wasn't the most successful bit of writing that I ever did, but it certainly got the ideas out. And a small anecdote is that, obviously in South Africa, marijuana is now legalized. But at the time, I was writing a section or dictating a section about a dagger. And my accent is obviously not something that was very comfortable with the software. So when I read through the transcript, there's this young innocent girl that drops this dagger, and then someone says, "Oh, you dropped your dagga," which is a South African version for marijuana. I'm like, oh, that wasn't what I intended to write. So so it was a bit flaky, but it certainly helped.
So like I often write in the queue. Like, there's nothing worse than wasting time in the queue at Pick and Pay or Home Affairs or wherever the hell you have to waste. So I often use that time. It's very productive time for me. I very seldom have time where I'm not busy. If I'm not writing, I'm marketing. If I'm not marketing, I'm researching. If I'm not researching, I'm plotting. So it's a constant thing for me. I fill sort of every gap that there is in the day.
That's very good advice. I found that was helpful as well. I started doing 3 hours a morning, and that was before the family woke up. And I think getting your family to support you makes a difference. So my husband has taken over the breakfast making shift. So that just allows me that little bit of snippet of extra time that the kids are not asking me for stuff. How do you get your family to support you in your writing at the moment?
I'm a single mum.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. So there is no support. Essentially, like, I'm gonna get judged a lot for this. So my house is like the Hunger Games. You'll take care of yourselves or you're gonna die. And since we sort of like implemented that change, I do get a lot more done. Mm-hmm. There's a book called The Miracle Morning for Writers. If you can get your hands on it, it is available on Kindle. It talks about a morning routine for writers. So I switched up to getting up really, really early in the morning, and I get, like you say, productive before everybody wakes up. So I write sort of from 4 until 6:30. Then I cook breakfast, feed kids, get them to school, put in a few hours in the morning. My afternoons are mostly focused on marketing, because I can do the marketing while the kids are nagging me about homework and everything else. I can't write with that noise. So the writing's done when they're not here, and then the marketing, PR and stuff is done, because it doesn't need your undivided attention like the writing does.
Okay, excellent. And then the next question that I have to ask is, if someone is a new author, that they've just started writing, what are the top 3 bits of advice that you're going to give them to get out there? You know, at the end of the day, I wanted to write, but I also wanted to earn. So if you're not just doing it for a bucket list, I mean, yours moved from bucket list into like a sensational
full-time career, yeah,
massive amount of books. But if you're wanting to write because you want to generate that extra income, what are the top 3 things advice that you could give to new writers?
Don't publish your first book until you've written the 3rd one, or you will spend your whole life writing to a deadline. So have 3 books in the bank before you publish anything. Have a phenomenal editor. from day one. Pay for it, save, sell a kidney. Your editor is everything. And my third bit of advice is forget your backyard. Forget South Africa. Forget selling books in South Africa. People here don't read books. Focus on an international audience right from day one. So do your genre research. Find a PR company overseas immediately to host your blog tour, to host your advertising and everything else right out the gate. And don't go into this thinking you're going to earn money without spending money, because you're not. You have to put the money in. It's like any other business. You wouldn't start any business without capital. So if you're going to do it to earn and for extra income, then it's a business and you need to treat it as such. You need to go into it with the capital to do it right from the very start.
Now, having said that, I do have to ask you, if you don't have capital going in, what are the ways that you can gradually work your way through it, that you can start building up capital? Because there are a significant number of authors that are starting without anything. I mean, after COVID-19, a lot of people lost their core income. And what kind of advice could you give to those kinds of people?
First bit of advice would be rather wait, if you can, until you've got the capital. Number one. If you can't and you feel like you absolutely have to publish, adjust your expectations. So without putting capital in, your earning out is obviously going to be less. If you're not spending on ads, if you're not spending on PR, obviously what you get going to be less. So there are amazing courses you can do on low budget or no budget PR and advertising and things like that. Sign up for those. They're often free. Kindlepreneur has a free ads course for Amazon. Learn how to work the ads. Start at a very low budget. Unfortunately, there are 8 to 10 million books on Amazon at any given time. So without some kind of PR, the chances of somebody seeing your book, 1 in 8 million, is very low. When I began, I started my very first book. I had a full-blown PR campaign with a PR agent. I put the money away for 3 or 4 months, saved it so that I could pay for that. Because if you go in and you do that from your very first book, you're going to have bloggers and that sign up for your blog tour and your PR on your first book. That will stick with you for every book after that. And that's how you sort of grow your tribe from the beginning. So my advice is, if you cannot wait to have the capital to at least do a proper PR blog tour on your first book, then you are going to have to substitute the money for time. You are going to put in hours of work contacting blogs, hours of work sourcing groups and posting in groups, hours of work finding an ARC team to read your advanced copies and stuff. So what you invest in money, so time it's going to take if you don't have the capital is a lot more. And that's why my first piece of advice was, don't publish your first book until your third book is written. Because if you are going to write to make money, you cannot write one book. You have to have a constant stream. Every 90 days, you need something to publish. And that's not being funny. That's just how the algorithm on Amazon works. That's how their visibility is programmed. So after 90 days, your book's visibility disappears out of the search bar. So my advice is, 3 books written, save every penny you can, and when you publish the first book, put as much PR into it as you can.
That's excellent advice. Thanks. That covers up the spectrum on either side. So tell us about what your latest book is about and what you are doing in your next project, because I have heard that you're busy with 4 books at a time. I tried that. I couldn't. I'm kind of sticking to the one book and then maybe rewrites of the second book. But I mean, you are a writing machine. So, so tell us about what you're busy with at the moment.
I do cycle draft. I am blessed that I have a brain that allows me to. Not everybody's brain can do it. So I do cycle draft 2 to 4 books at a time. In January 2021, I am launching a brand new pen name under the contemporary romance genre and romantic comedy. So at the moment, I am wrapping up the first 2 books of that. They are getting ready to beta and go to final round of edits. I am writing a contemporary rock star romance under the same pen name called The Difference Between Us that I'm busy working on at the moment. So those are what I'm wrapping up. And I've just finished Lost at Sea and published that, which was the last book in my Island series. So that was my last publication for 2020. It was a bit of a slow year, you know, lockdown and homeschooling and all didn't really work for us. I do have a short story coming out on October 30th as part of the Devil's Night promotion with Penelope Douglas. So there's about 80 authors and we all have short stories that will be put up during that day. So I have that coming, but other than that, I'm done for this year and getting ready for next year.
Will we see you at Nanowrimo this year?
Every year since 2014, I have finished Nano. I will not finish it. I'm a diehard Nano fan. I think it is so much fun. The panic and the procrastination and then the binge writing and the camaraderie between writers because we're all suffering the same fate and why did we sign up to do this shit anyway? Of course I will be. I normally host at least one write-in at my home for the romance writers during Nano, where we get together and mostly drink wine and moan about not writing instead of writing. But Nano is amazing, and if you're starting out and you want to get your first book written, Nano is the place to start. My second book was a Nanowrimo book. I wrote it in the month of November with a broken elbow and one hand. So there is no excuse, okay? If I can write 80,000 words with one hand in a month.
I think I submitted, I did my final words probably at about 11:45 that night when the deadline was. I was shattered.
Listen, if you don't 11:59, did you even do it?
I don't know, but in my mind, I did it. You know, I'm not a night owl. You can wake me up at 2:00 in the morning and say, be ready for action. And I'm like, I'm so happy. But at 8:30 in the evening, I'm finished. So for me to have continued writing until that time, I'm like, no, it's too much. But I've definitely signed on for the for Nano for this year. I'm going to be writing my 4th book. My 3rd book is sitting with my editor at the moment, and the 2nd book is launching on the 3rd of November. So I've learned a lot from you. I mean, there's no way that I'm going to be able to perform at your pace, but I certainly have learned a lot from you. So I'm so incredibly grateful that you could spend some time with us helping other authors to just see what is possible.
But definitely, Nano.
Yes.
Nano is like a vibe. You'll see in all the groups, on all Facebook, social media. During November, there's such a vibe between writers. And like, it's one of the few times, because let's be honest, we're very solitary little creatures. We sit in our little writing cave, and most of us don't particularly like people and leaving our cave unless we absolutely have to. So it kind of forces us almost to be social as a collective, which is great. I love Nano. I'm behind Nano every year. Everyone who can sign up for it should.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I just found that the little productivity hacks, and by the way, for everyone who's watching, I am going to, when November arrives, I am going to do a little tutorial on Nano and how it's working. But I'll put a link in the bottom. I'll put a link to how to sign on to Nanowrimo. And I'm also going to put the link into Ashleigh's book. So please pop down to the bottom, have a look at the descriptions, and subscribe if you want to get more of these videos. And let us know in the comment section what you're writing at the moment. Are you going to be writing Nanowrimo? Do you have any challenges? And I'll correlate them, and then I'll pop them over to Ashleigh and ask her for a little bit of advice that I can respond to everyone who writes something in there. But Ashleigh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking
My
the
pleasure.
weekend. Excellent.
It's a pleasure.
I'm going to be posting this video next week, Wednesday, for those of people who are watching the people. And yeah, thanks once again. Have a super weekend, and I will catch you on Nano.
You too. Thanks.